Yo, parish orphans and retrogrades, happy Sunday. Today is a special episode of Rules for Retrogrades featuring Dr. Edmund Mazza. We want to roll out for you, I'm going to let Dr. Mazza do it, a path that is canonically precedented and could theoretically guarantee us a faithful pope with, all the right pieces falling into a place. That would require some cardinals with some serious alpha energy, acting proactively, and some active, proactive world leaders. Let's call it the Mazza maneuver. Dr. Edmund Mazza, you were assessing church history and you came across the so-called double conclave of 1130 involving popes or anti-popes, Innocent II and Anacletus or Anacletus, however you say that, the second. Why don't you roll this out for us? Because this is all your idea, and I think it's really interesting.
Thank you, Tim. So let me just preface it real quick by giving the context that what we're facing with the conclave. If betting markets are anything to go by, and take that with a grain of salt, right now number one is Parler, number two is Tagle. I've heard it both ways, and the third one is Zuppi. God help us.
Right.
So the I would say, barring divine intervention, we're going to get another Francis 2.0 or God knows worse. That being said, I don't know why I didn't put this together weeks ago, but I've done extensive research on the double conclave of February 14th, 1130, the year of our Lord, 1130. Almost exactly 900 years ago, something really unique happened in church history, which it gets overshadowed by the Great Western Schism. But if this precedent is anything to go by, then it actually gives us, I believe, a method, as you with all the caveats that you just mentioned at the start of the show, for getting a Catholic Pope, and maybe even this is the beginning of the end of Vatican II. So that having been said, when the Pope died on the morning of February 14th in the year of our Lord, 1130, a secret conclave was held. A handful of cardinals got together, and they, without telling the rest of the college what they were doing, or even that the Pope was dead, they elected a man who took the name Innocent II. And that's why we might want to dub, instead of the Mazza maneuver, we might want to dub this the innocent option, because this is how it went down. They very quickly took him to a church, got him consecrated as Pope, as the Bishop of Rome, by the Cardinal of Ostia, who has the traditional role of doing that. And then what happened was the rest of the cardinals found out about this, and needless to say, they were furious. They quickly got together, and this is the majority of the cardinals, got together in Rome and did a second conclave where they said that the first conclave was null and void. Well, actually, we'll get into whether they did or did not later. But the point is they had their own conclave, and they elected Anacletus II. That's the name that he took. His name was he came from the Pierleoni family, which was a Jewish family which had converted to Catholicism.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Versus. I already don't like him.
So what happened was he got the support of one of the two rival families that controlled, back in those days, it was like the Corleones versus the Tattaglias, So the one mafia family that controlled Rome supported Anacletus, the other one supported Innocent. But after a few days of scuffle, Anacletus secured the throne, and actually he had the support of the people of Rome and most of the cardinals and clergy. Innocent flees the scene, and to make a very long story short, I've got all the receipts on this for those that want to know more. I'm offering a course which actually starts as soon as this program is over. If you go to edmundmazza.com for the next 4 Sundays of Easter, I'm doing this course on the next Pope, so I can give more information. But this is what happens. Innocent escapes abroad. and he gets the support of the greatest saint of that century and the human dynamo of that century, Saint Bernard of Clairvaux.
Yeah.
Bernard of Clairvaux goes to all the abbots in France. He goes to all the kings, the King of France, the King of England. He goes to the Holy Roman Emperor in Germany.
The Cluny monks too, right? You told me earlier.
Yeah, the Cluny monks that he gets. He was of the Cistercians, so the Cistercians were behind him. Saint Norbert, who is the head of the Norbertines, he supported Innocent as well. So what happens is for 8 years, Innocent is gathering support abroad, but Anacletus is ruling from Rome, Anacletus II. And they mutually excommunicate each other, et cetera, et cetera. And then 8 years later, Anacletus dies. He is another conclave is held in Rome. He has a successor, but Saint Bernard of Clairvaux comes down to Rome, gives the guy a good tongue lashing, and he agrees to give up the throne to Innocent II. Lastly, Innocent II, it's the year 1139, securely on the throne of Rome with the support of all the different kings, calls an ecumenical council of the church, the Second Ecumenical Council. And one of the canons of that council is that Anacletus...
Florentine, right?
What's that?
You said Second Ecumenical Council. You said Second Florentine?
Oh, no, it's the Second Lateran.
Oh, Lateran, sorry.
Second Lateran. Okay. And one of the provisions of the Second Lateran Council is that Anacletus II was an anti-pope. All of his acts, like making cardinals and this and that, are all null and void.
And are all Jewish. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I can share a quote with you where Saint Bernard talks about he tells I think it's the King of Sicily, the Norman King of Sicily, that or was it the Holy Roman Emperor of Germany, that what a great travesty it is to have a Jew on the throne of Saint Peter. So we can discuss that. We can discuss that later. But what I'm trying to get at, for the sake of the conclave that's going to happen in 10 days from now or 9 days from now, whatever it is this. There's no way that the election of Innocent II was canonical or legal. The rest of the cardinals weren't even informed that the current pope had died.
Right.
According to the canon, I can get into the weeds if you want, but according to the canon law of the time, I believe you had to wait 3 days at least before you could even begin to discuss, the next pope. So first of all, they discussed what they might do while he was still dying. And then once he died, they didn't wait 3 days to hold the election. And then thirdly, they didn't tell most of the cardinals that he had died, and they didn't tell them that we're about to have an election either. So, there were other non-canonical things about this as well. So that's the quick overview.
The last point of the overview being, it was non-canonical, but it ends up being cured by the Second Lateran Council with something like a supplied jurisdictional.
Yes, let me give you a quote, Tim, from none other than Doctor of the Church, St. Alphonsus Liguori. And he says in his Della Verita della Fede, quote, "It makes no difference that in past ages some pope was illegitimately elected or fraudulently usurped the pontificate. It is sufficient that he be afterwards accepted by the whole church. For by such acceptance, he is made the true and legitimate pontiff."
Right.
Well, if St. Alphonsus Liguori is correct, and if the Second Lateran Council is correct, and if Pope Innocent II really was Pope, despite the illegality of his secret conclave before anybody else held a conclave, Tim, why don't we do the same thing today? Let's do the innocent option. Burke, Sarah, Mueller, Ranjith, let them go and hold their own conclave tomorrow, next week.
Sabala, who's the other guy beginning with an E? Yeah, if you could get 10, me and you earlier were saying pie in the sky, 12 cardinals, that's a conclave, for the purposes of what the time demands.
Precisely.
Yeah. hell yeah, man. Well, why not? And we'll talk about the geopolitical ramifications and requirements maybe in a little bit, but why not?
Yeah. What folks don't understand is that the church, the Catholic Church, is of course a monarchy. Okay. But when the Pope is dead, the church sort of reverts to an aristocracy, in Aristotelian terms, right? So there is no supreme head of the church right now. It's sort of like, cardinals have to use their head. They have to use their discretion. And at the time of, again, the morning of February 14th in the year of our Lord, 1130, those handful of cardinals decided whatever the threat was. They actually never came out and said directly what the threat was, but scholars have debated this. It was
threat of getting a Jew pope. How about that?
That was reason enough. Okay, now he was a Catholic, but he was of Jewish ethnicity, let's say, right? So
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay. So the point is this. We're talking about Saint Bernard of Clairvaux and Saint Norbert of Xanthan here. I mean, we're not talking about Bill and Ted, right? This is serious people in church history. So
this is 9A with Gemini.
Sorry.
Thought you were speaking in tongues there for a second.
Sorry about that, Ed.
It's okay.
No. Yeah.
But so the bottom line is this: they thought it was an emergency situation, and that gave them the authority to supersede what the canons of the day actually had in on paper, and this was ratified retroactively by the fact that Innocent II goes on to be recognized as Pope. He goes on to convoke an ecumenical council of the church in which he declares that the guy who had been running things in Rome for 8 or 9 years was an anti-pope. Why can't we do that? Why can't we do that today? Why? Obviously, we would need Burke and Seurat and all these like-minded individuals to stand up and do this. But even if they did do it, of course, there's going to be opposition from the other side. But if precedent is anything to go by, possession is 9/10 of the law.
Right. That's precisely correct. I think go for it. I mean, if you can count to 10, that would be amazing, and get 10 guys there. I had been checking in the voting, the betting line in Vegas earlier in the week, but I stopped. So I wasn't aware that the top 3 most likely papabile are now 3 lefties. Francis is Cardinal Secretary of State, and the singing Tagle. Well, what did I call him the other day? What is it? K-pop?
K-pop. You said that he was singing the Brews.
He's singing the Brews. Tagle, and freaking Cardinal Soupy, who's maybe to the left of Francis, which is no mean feat. So if so, then what better time than now during like you say, Ed, the aristocratic interregnum of the church to sort of make power moves. Canonically, this is precedented.